This is a 2013 Whirlpool hot water heater. This thing failed. We're going to try to figure out why. Let's get into it. This 2013 hot water heater is 80 gallon. It was in the garage. We were working in the garage last night and realized it was spraying all over the floor, and we couldn't find any visible leaks. It heats the apartment that's above this garage. It's 80 gallon. It's really way oversized, but we felt like that's the way we needed to go when we initially put it in. But it had a seep that was coming out around this blue lid. It kept coming up around these fittings, but we dry the fittings off. There's no water coming out of the fittings. I've got it unhooked right now. You can see corrosion down in here. And I put my finger in there. I don't know if you can see it with the camera. Let me get a light. There's tons of corrosion down inside there. And on that side, what, nearly plugged. But this has gone way too far for it just to be, what, 8 years old? Not even 8 years old, really. It was manufactured in July, so it's less than 8 years old. But we got to figure out the root cause of it, because we can't have it happen again. The biggest issue that we've discovered, and we've known for a long time, this area where we live at, we live in limestone country. We got really hard water here, and it really just eats everything up. You get that, I guess that when you heat water, it makes the minerals fall out of suspension, and the minerals here, what, calcium, limestone, iron, a lot of iron in the water, even though it's not well water, it's city water. But our city water, the report we get annually, it's really hard water, and it's right on the edge of being undrinkable. Like most cities with really old utilities, you don't have the best water in the country. Everybody says it tastes good. I guess it's probably because of the mineral content, but you definitely don't want to drink it after it comes through one of these water heaters because they're so corroded and miserable inside. We're going to pull the anode rod, the sacrificial rod, and this water heater's been taken care of. We've flushed it pretty regular. I can't tell that does any good. It keeps it from stopping up for draining it. It also has an expansion tank, which is recommended for just about any water heater now. I think there is a backflow preventer on the primary water line that comes into this house. So you got to have some type of expansion tank. If not, when the water heater heats up, it can damage parts of your plumbing. You got to have somewhere for the water to go. And I checked the expansion tank. It was very low on air, and I'm checking now. I've got it under pressure with the water drained out of it to see if it's going to hold air. I can't hear it bubbling inside. So I'm going to give it about 15-20 minutes and see if the pressure drops. It's on 48.6 right now. So let's see what well it was about 10 minutes ago. Let's see what it is now. 48.3. Yeah, we can't have that. What is the bladder in these things deteriorates, and usually they fill up with water when they fail. So this one may just be leaking slightly. I don't know. It's a good idea to replace the expansion tank every time you replace the water heater anyway, which is probably what we'll end up doing. I hate to take a chance on another very expensive water heater. Another thing I noticed when I was draining it, I hooked the hose up to it. The water wasn't coming out very good. I knew since I was taking the water heater out anyway, I pulled this pressure relief valve, and I could not get this thing to break open. I mean, it was stuck solid. You're not supposed to ever fool with these T&P valves, temperature and pressure valves. They're supposed to pop if it gets too hot, and they're supposed to pop if it gets too high pressure. But I don't think this thing could have, because it was so hard to get broke loose. But I wouldn't have fooled with it if I weren't taking the water heater out anyway. So that could have been a problem, causing overpressure and overexpansion. And that's very dangerous. These water heaters, that thing is never supposed to fail. But you should probably replace them regularly anyway. But these things become bombs when they overpressure. We do have PVC pipe that could blow apart, I guess, if it was overpressured. But I don't know. That just sounds dangerous to me. The first thing you need to do when you decide to replace your hot water heater is you come in and turn your electrical supply off. We turned it off at the panel, but sometimes panels aren't always labeled correctly, so we also pulled the breaker that was inside of that box that's always next to your water heater for your power supply. Then we come back in with a meter and checked our connections to make sure that our power supply had no power on it at all. And you can see there's rust on that. And there's rust down in that foam. This is a very efficient water heater. It's supposed to have been. It had a really thick foam all over it. But there's no way of telling just where the leak's coming from. Probably the top. Because if you watch the videos with Matt Reisinger and Richard Trethewey, you'll notice that when the hottest part of the tank is at the top and the minerals fall out of suspension, they actually stick to the top of the tank and the top element. You'd think they'd all be stuck to the bottom, which is the case of older water heaters that we've opened up. But the ones they cut open all had the minerals more crowded around the top, and that could affect this valve, and it also could corrode the top of your tank. If there's even an air gap, which there shouldn't be, the corrosion is going to happen more rapidly. And if your anode rod is gone, then it has nothing to do except exchange electrons with other parts of your plumbing system, and that means corroding right directly into your tank. And I do have stainless steel fittings. But this tank is now disconnected, and when we get this tank out, we have I don't know if you can see it down there, there's a frost-free outlet that goes outside, and oddly, it failed around the same time this tank did, which to me is another indicator of either corrosion or pressure. And that's not very old, that frost-free fitting down there, but I can't get to it with the tank in place. So since it's already leaking, we're going to go ahead and exchange this tank out and take that frost-free fitting out too. I've got another one. I've got a brass one we're going to put in, a brass craft, I think. But always be aware of your electrical. And then we made fast connect fittings that are going to help us get this out. I believe this tank is slightly taller and had slightly taller fittings, so I may have to put the new tank. It's the same height, but the dielectric nipples are just a little bit shorter and recessed into the tank. Let's take a look. Actually, these don't sit down in a hole, so I'll do a measurement here in a minute and see if I can get them the same. But you always got to use these nipples. These are very important to keep corrosion out of your tank. They're galvanized on the outside, but with these liners in them, they're not supposed to ever come in contact with other parts of the tank. I don't know exactly the science behind them, but they're supposed to save your tank. It's nice to see that they've put them in. I don't believe that other tank come with the fittings at all, that we had to find fittings for it. But this is a different brand. This is A.L. Smith Signature, which is carried by Lowe's. And that Whirlpool came from Lowe's, and this A.L. Smith was half the price that we paid for that one in 2013, but it is a smaller tank. It doesn't look like it's as well insulated either. We never removed this too before. Whenever we first framed these doors out, these closets haven't been here as long as the water heater. We built the closets around it, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and take this 2x4 out with a Sawzall, and I put the blade in the Sawzall upside down so I can get closer to the floor. Get this out and make it a little bit easier. I've said before in many of my videos, the last truck we were working on and a lot of videos prior to that everything manufactured today, everything with no exception, has a built-in expiration date. The manufacturers put a lot of research and a lot of science into developing a product that will last just outside of the warranty period to avoid lawsuits or liabilities. They want this product to fail as soon as the warranty period is gone. Now, they blame a lot of that on you. They blame a lot of these things on your maintenance and upkeep. And they make a water heater that has a 6-year warranty. This has a 6-year warranty. It's lasted, 8 years? It has one anode rod. But you can buy the water heater that has the extended warranty on it that might, let's say, a 10 or a 12-year warranty that has 2 anode rods. Or a different type of material that corrodes a lot more slowly, and maybe extra glass lining on the inside of the tank. These things don't cost that much, and it'd be a lot easier for them to put in to start with. I removed a water heater from my mother and father's house several years ago that was 30 years old, and you hear that same complaint. Everybody that talks about water heaters, these things are designed to fail, just like everything. The computer industry designs things to fail. The automotive industry designs everything to fail. They want this product to die just as soon as this warranty's over, just so they don't have liability. If they sold you one water heater and you kept it in your house for 30 years, they'd be out of business pretty quick, because soon everybody would have a water heater and they wouldn't need to replace it. But that just shakes the faith of the American people in product manufacturing. Let's take a look at this. This is the anode rod. This is what they blame on you. This is your part. You should change this. At least check it every single year. I've got it loose. And you really should. If you want your water heater to last, it's on you to make that water heater last. If you can't do it yourself, get a service contractor to come in and inspect your water heater every year. Here is a 8-year-old anode rod. Now, this is only about a foot long, and it's only about the size of a pencil lead. There's a little bit of corrosion on it. This thing should go all the way to the bottom of the tank, and it should be, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. It should be about as thick as this plug. If you look at the plug carefully, you can see where the shoulders was. This thing has just dissolved, and it's a combination of hard water, heating water, and just something that was never designed to last in the first place. They make them out of aluminum. This one's probably aluminum. They make them out of magnesium, which I think lasts a little longer than aluminum. They're just designed to give up electrons, give the mineral something to attach to rather than eat away at your tank. But this one is just done. And it's probably, they're going to say it's my fault. The home warranty, if you had a home warranty on this, they wouldn't cover it because you didn't change the anode rod every year. You didn't flush your tank every 6 months. The burden is on you, and they've made it that way deliberately, so they no longer have to take responsibility. Even if if this was in the warranty period and I had filed for a warranty against this product, they would have denied it because I didn't go in and take the necessary steps. I didn't change the anode every year. I didn't flush it every 6 months. I didn't do the necessary things, but nobody does that. No homeowner even knows to do that. No homeowner that gets a new home ever sees the warranty paperwork on their water heaters. And there's instructions that's on the tank. There's a lot of fine print. They tell you a lot of things to do. But that's all to protect them. That's not to protect you. That's to put the liability right on square on your shoulders, and it's sad. Vehicles, that's a 1976 car. Pretty solid, I guess. But in the 70s, they were already making cars that were just going to corrode down to nothing because they realized that life expectancy on cars was way too long and they had to do something about it. They stopped putting rust coating and putting galvanized materials in vehicles and started spraying something that's no more than a little bit of wax. The new Chevrolet trucks, and if you go buy a brand new Chevrolet right now, it's going to have a little bit of wax. I don't know what that stuff's called. I got it in the spray can here, but it's just wax. It might work for one season, but 4 or 5 years when your car has exceeded the warranty period, it's going to be already deteriorated. There's a 64 Mercury Comet out there in the yard, and it's pretty solid as far as that goes. Other than not needing a little bit of work on the running gears, it's solid. I'm just disappointed in manufacturers. And that's my rant. Now that we got the water heater out of its little closet, we can see that there's a frost-free water line coming in. And we're going to put this, I said a different brand a while ago. This is a Woodford unit. It's brass. And it's very similar to the chrome one that's there. The same length, I believe. So we're going to put this in, replace it while we got this out. And maybe that's a clue to what was going on with our water heater. The pressure. Now I'm going to go outside and put this new valve in. This frost-free water spigot. But I need to know when I tighten this up where the top of it is so I can get it lined up straight up and down. So I'm going to put a mark along this copper that when I push it through the wall, when I get to that mark and I get it good tight and that mark is straight up and down, I'll know that my spigot is pointing down. Now that I've got my mark made on the top of my pipe, I'm going to wrap it a few times with this Blue Monster Teflon tape, and I'm also going to put a layer of this Megalock. It's pipe thread sealant, and basically I'm just putting it on there for lubrication. The main reason is that's a stainless steel fitting down there, and if you put too much Teflon tape on and put too much pressure, that's going to split that stainless steel fitting, and it's really hard to get stainless steel to fit. But this brass and stainless should work just fine. I hope that it doesn't cause corrosion, but I don't think stainless is too bad for that. Now we got the old spigot out, the one that was outside that busted out here. Got the new spigot in. We've also got it pitched. It's hard to tell with the camera, but this end is higher than the outside. I actually had to cut, it was a little bit longer, so I had to cut a little bit of the PVC and actually elevate it a little, and I also secured it there to the framing. Because the little screws in the sheeting outside, people goes to tugging on it with a water hose, they'll come loose, so I put a strap inside here to make it secure. Now I'm ready to start putting the water heater back in. Well, this water heater lines up mostly. The other water heater had longer nipples, so it's brought these down. Having this and having shorter nipples, it's probably got about an inch difference. Which I could probably pull this one down, but it put it under a lot of stress. This one's definitely not moving because it's connected to the expansion tank. Now I don't really want this water heater sitting on the floor anyway. Of course the overflow is going to have to be cut and modified, looks like. But since I don't want it sitting on the floor, I have some plastic spacers that I think I could set this on. I got pretty big pieces, so I could probably put 2 of those 1/2-inch spacers under this thing and get it up off the floor, and plus make it good and solid, because that stuff, it's a composite plastic that's used for making cabinets, so it doesn't have any wood or anything in it. It's just plastic laminate. So I'll get some pieces of that and try. We got our plastic shims under there. Can't really see them. It's really solid. It's good and solid. All it is this plastic composite material. It's plastic all the way through. This is used to make, I think, like boat and RV cabinets or something like that. It's really rigid. It doesn't collapse. It's solid. I've got it where it covers probably 80% of the bottom. Adjust them once I get everything hooked up before I fill it with water. Next thing to do is these things measure up nicely now. They'll connect real nice. This one I measured already. I'm going to put my Teflon tape and my pipe both on there and get these stainless steel fitting. I hate stainless steel. We've got our Blue Monster Teflon tape on there, and we've got our Megalock pipe dope on there. And now it's time to put on the fittings. Now we got the kind of wonky plumbing fixed up, got it glued back. All I gotta do now is go out to the building. I gotta get some unions for this overflow, or this pop-off valve drain. I gotta glue this union and put another elbow in here. Then we're gonna move on to the electrical. And I should be able to use the existing cap. They look like they're similar, but there's only 3 wires on the electrical system on this. You got 2 hot wires, so you'll go black to black and white to red, and then the copper is already grounded to the cap, which will ground it to the tank. Then you go through fill this tank. This tank has to be filled completely before you ever put power to it. If you don't, if you turn it on with those elements in there dry, it'll just pop those elements. They'll be ruined immediately. So you got to make sure this tank is full and purged of all air. Open all your taps up. Get all the air out of the whole system when you fill it up with water. I don't like this PVC. I wish I'd never used PVC, but that's what I had available at the time. This CPVC stuff, this potable water, I don't like it. If it's old, it gets brittle and it cracks when you try to cut it. And it's hard to glue when it's old. The last time we put a water heater in, we kept gluing the joints up with glue and primer, and it would let it sit for about an hour, and then turn it on, it would pop the joints right back off. This old plumbing pipe, it just doesn't do very good. I want to jerk all this out at some point and put PEX in here, but I'm going to try to get by for now, just get the water heater back going till I move over to other plumbing. Let's see what else we like to do here. We've got our two hot wires connected with wire nuts and the ground connected to the cover. All we got to do now is tuck these back down in here and put our cover on, and the electrical will be done. And there it is, everything installed. Always put the date on your water heater on the date of installation. I wrote it down here too because I use gray and you can't hardly see it, so I put it on the sticker. Just because it has a manufacturer date on it doesn't mean that that's a date it was installed. You got to have your installation date for warranty purposes if you ever get to use your warranty. But I haven't pressure tested or anything yet. I'm still letting some of my glue dry here, and we checked that pressure tank. It's still holding 50 pounds, so should be good, I guess, for now. And we've also got our outside spigot replaced, which was unrelated to this, but we might as well do it while it's out. We're going to charge this up and pressurize it, and that should be how to install a residential water heater. Although we use some existing plumbing that's kind of wonky, that's still the general principle's the same. I appreciate you guys watching right along with me. Something that was unnecessary but had to be done because we had a failure of what looks like a fairly new water heater. But we're going to get away from this. This is a more expensive one to run anyway. It's 80 gallons, just heating water all the time that nobody's using, which may have led to its premature failure. Nobody really knows. I think they're just designed to fail. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Everybody stay clean.